Like many of you, I have many friends that I'm talking to on a weekly basis and people in my life. And the one thing that I've really been tracking over the last, again, we could talk the last couple of years, but I've been struck by how many people in the last few months are having their deep, dark struggle moments. For those of you who aren't in that place, I'll talk to you in a second. But even, very good friends of mine who, some of whom work in this field, work in healing, and they're talking about what they're feeling in the collective energy and the heaviness that exists. And it doesn't mean you're necessarily consumed by it, doesn't necessarily mean that you're always focused on it, but how it's affecting all of us and how it is creating a little bit more of an inward time. Personally, I've noticed for myself, and this has been something I've been practicing for a few years, that whenever I get off balance or I feel like my nervous system is a bit overstimulated or I've got something going on, and maybe I'm having a reaction to something that's going on in the world, my way has always been to see how much smaller I can take things. So how much smaller can I make my focus that day? How much smaller can I make the amount of communication I'm having with others? How much smaller can I make my schedule? How much smaller can I make my literal physical environment? Do I need to go into a small area of the house and just sit quietly with my eyes closed? Or is it that I need to go into the garden and be in nature or be in natural light? So I think for all of us, this need to unplug from the hyperstimulation, not just of our already very busy world, and a world that for those of us who are 20 plus, not the level of speed that we grew up in, and not the level of information that we grew up in, or the level of chaos. There's a certain level of chaos in the world now that is very different to what many of us experienced even 10 years ago, let alone 20 or 30 years ago. So I've been just tracking that and noticing how important it is for all of us to recognize that those waves that we're in are real waves and they're affecting each of us at different times. So for myself, those waves look like going through my own moments, going through my own things, my own stuff, or who's the next person in my community who's on a down wave? And is there anything I can do to help? Is it just my place to listen and I don't have to help, or there's nothing I can really do, but they're heard? And then sometimes is it a day where I know I'm not really available to help because I need to recalibrate myself in order to be able to get back out into the ocean with everybody. So I share that, and I also wanted to share with you, because I am connected to quite a few people who work as healers or work in the spiritual field, what they're talking to me about too. I always find it really reassuring when whatever it might be I'm over-personalizing, I suddenly realize is a worldwide phenomenon. It's one of the reasons I do the energy updates, because I know for me it's very helpful to understand the wider picture of what I might be picking up on. And I know for many of you who tune in on the energy updates or come to me for this kind of work, it's the same for you. It helps us to share and hear the commonalities. And I've just been very struck by the amount of people I know who are going through these waves. And I know that these waves are always about transformation. Whether we're purging, whether we're transmuting feelings we have, grief, pain, shock, fear, horror, or whether we're literally shifting our identity, which has been a big theme the last couple of months around the energy updates. Not quite knowing who you are anymore, not quite knowing what this world is anymore, not quite knowing which way is north and which way is south anymore. Even me telling you I can't believe it's June 2022, and I remind myself, it's okay, you just have to let go of linear time. Don't worry about it. It's a continuum. I think a lot of us are having those feelings, and yet for me, and for many people I know, mentors of mine, teachers of mine, supportive friends of mine, and people who are going through the same thing, this ability to draw it all back in and destimulate. The same way if you're a parent and your child comes back from a party and you can tell that they're really hyper and you're like, oh, this is going to crash at some point or they're not going to sleep. The knowing parent, the aware parent, will guide the child into a calmer moment so that they can regulate, so that they can come down a little bit from the hyper energy that they're in, that you can see at some point is going to destabilize or is going to crash. So it's the same level of parenting for us at the moment with ourselves. Even if you're somebody who isn't directly going through something right now, there isn't an external experience in your life or something going on with another person in your life that's really hitting you hard, I'm noticing the subtle waves that are moving through everybody, myself included. And this is the wave of these times. And so when the Z's started talking about the chrysalis that we're in right now, again, please do check out the piece of writing on the transmissions page because it's interesting. They've talked a little about, we are building to 2024, which is a really important year on the planet and a year where things can start to open out. Doesn't mean that we won't have openings now. Doesn't mean you can be having the best year of your life right now. That can be happening concurrently with this major world change that we're going through. And by the way, if you catch yourself feeling guilty about that or thinking, oh my God, it's really awkward to talk to my friends about what we've all just gone through the last 2 years with COVID and the lockdowns, because I think actually it was the gift I needed, but I don't want to be insensitive and say that to my friend who I know went through a lot of difficulties. Well, you don't have to say that to your friend if there's no value in that for your friend, but you also don't have to be ashamed of that or feel guilty about that. We all need somebody who can hold the light, the steadiness, or the words of wisdom when we're struggling, when we're a bit down, when we're a bit fragile, when we're a little off. For me, I have many tools I can do for myself, but you can't beat somebody in your life, whether they're in person with you or whether they're a phone call away or whether it's something you read or something you see that somehow lifts you with their spirit. That's why we're here, to really be there for one another. And those of you who are not that into humans, but you're more here for animals and nature, for you it would be animals and nature that would do that for you. I mean, I certainly know. For me, myself and Stephen are owned by 2 cats. They supervise us every single day, and the amount of joy they bring and their simple presence in life. And of course, they have their freak out moments. Their nervous system is wired to sense danger, so even though they live in a very safe house and they don't go outside, they still have moments where they hear a noise. And so that programming is in us to have those moments, but they're very present with the day. And that's the beauty of animals and what they teach us. They are able to shake things off and they are able to be very present to the moment. So that brings me to the group of you who are having some extraordinary times in your life right now. And perhaps you can hand on heart say, wow, I've never felt more conscious of life or of the amazing fact that I'm here on earth, or what's going on in my life right now feels like the culmination of many years or decades of where I wanted to get to, or not much has changed in my life, but I'm way more grateful for everything than I ever was before, and that feels good. So there are a growing number, the Z's were talking to me about this yesterday, there are a growing number of people on the planet right now who are popping into that level of consciousness, that level of gratitude, that level of presence. Doesn't mean it has to be with you all the time, but it's what I like to call the simple happiness. I was hoovering my car on Monday, which is not something I probably do as often as I should. But I was hoovering my car and I was so grateful to be hoovering the car and just felt ridiculously happy about it. So those are the moments that show up for me. Very silly things, like not big things, not the kind of things that society might tell us to care about, just simple present moments. I was enjoying this act of cleaning up the debris that had maybe gathered from various passengers and things like that. So, and myself, of course, the main passenger in the car. So those kinds of moments are happening more and more for people, but there are a whole group of you right now and in recent months and in the months to come who are on fire with ideas and on fire with innovation and on fire with vision. And by all means, build what you want to build, but do know that it is going to get easier towards the end of this year and into next year to be building things externally. So it does not mean you shouldn't do it now, because I would never want you to not bring that forward, because of course there will be people bringing new things into the world all of the time. But the reason I specify the difference is the energy is fast right now, and so if you have a vision or a goal or a dream or an idea, and instead of rushing to act on it next week, you tell yourself, I am going to act on this. I'm going to somehow make this happen. Don't know how, but I can feel it's going to happen. If you can sit in the knowing that it's going to happen, even if you don't know why or how, but you can feel it, you'll be surprised how each week in these next few months, layers upon layers can come in and build. And you will also find that not only can you build your vision and develop it, if you sit with it and let it percolate in you, you're also going to easier magnetize the people and the synchronicities that you might need to build it.